Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
One of our guests is a werewolf. I know it.
This is episode 120, recorded July 29th, 2020.
Gruesome Magazine.
Hello again. I am your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Decades of Horror in the 1970s, and my script has vanished. So this is what the night has come for us. If you like 70s horror, this is what we do. And yeah, I just don't have it memorized, so we're just going to wing it. But what we're doing tonight is we're going to be talking about The Beast Must Die, which is a film from 1974. This is an Amicus film that is not an anthology, which is unusual, especially in the 70s. And it also has one of our favorite actors, Peter Cushing, in it. It is also in the black exploitation market known as Black Werewolf. It was actually released on VHS. Had to remember what that was. But first, let's find out who's joining us tonight. With us tonight is Jeff Moore. Jeff, how are you doing, bud?
Well, I was doing pretty good, but I shaved this morning, and now I'm noticing little tiny hairs. I don't. Am I still bald?
Little tiny hairs.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm okay. Okay. Must not be a full moon.
All right. Yeah, we do not want a full moon from Jeff Talbot. Just saying. Just keep that to yourself. All right. Also joining us is Bill Mulligan. He is a writer, director, special effects guru, and all around nice guy. How you doing, Bill?
I'm fine. I am in an incredibly pink room. I'm in Minnesota. Don't you know?
Is it pink? It looks very peach here.
It is very peach. If I tried to key it out, I'd just be two disembodied eyes floating.
Oh, it's not like you've never done that before.
All right, much cooler background than I do with the wolf.
Too bad you don't have pink screen, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. All right, also joining us is the one and only Chad Hunt. Chad Hunt, how you doing, bud?
I'm awesome. I'm as you guys know, I'm a werewolf, so I'm getting my list together of things that have to be absolutely lined up for silver to kill me.
Yes. And I've seen that you changed your name to Eddie Quist. That's really funny.
Mm.
So welcome for that.
Jeff stole my Talbot line. So.
He did. All right. What were you going to say, Jeff?
Nothing.
Nothing. You were going to say nothing. All right. The film we're going to
surprise. That doesn't happen often.
Oh, surprise. Yeah. The film we're talking about tonight is The Beast Must Die. And that happens when the moon is full, it says. Yes. This is released in April of 1974 in the U.S. from Amicus. It was directed by Paul Annett. The writer is Michael Winder, based on a short story by James Blish, which I did not know was based on the short story. The cast includes Calvin Lockhart, Peter Cushing, Marlene Clark, Charles Gray, Anton Diffring, Ciaran or Ciaran, depends on where you're from, Madden, Tom Chadbon, and Michael Gambon. Sometimes I always thought it was Gambon, but it looks like Gambon. The tagline goes, one of these 8 people will turn into a werewolf. Can you guess who it is when we stop the film for our werewolf break? See it, solve it, but don't tell. 8 people have been invited to an island estate for the weekend. One of them is a werewolf. Can you guess which one? Is a synopsis. So yeah, they're doubling down on this whole werewolf break, which one bit of news, or what am I trying to say? One bit of trivia. Thank you. My brain is just not working. One bit of trivia is that the writer and director were not on board at all with this werewolf break business, and that was all Amicus and the producers. And but it. Ironically, I think that's what this film is remembered for.
It is, yeah.
All right. So what we do is we go around, we give our first impressions. We share when we first saw it, be it back in 1974, sometime in between, or Maybe just today. We'll find out. We're going to start off with Jeff Moore. Jeff, what is your first impression? When did you first see Beast Must Die?
I just saw this a few days ago. This is a fun little movie, but we've talked about this before. This had another one of those scores that sounded like 70s detective show funk score or something.
Yes.
Or a chase scene. There's like a Rockford or a Mannix chase scene was going on. Yeah. But it was fun. I loved Calvin Lockhart's shirt, that black silk shirt with the shiny borders going down either side of the placket.
Yes.
I want that. But I did notice that there was one scene where he's upstairs talking to his wife, and then he goes downstairs and looks out the window and runs off chasing Michael Gambon's character. Maybe Andy M can tell us the proper pronunciation.
Very well.
And now he's just magically wearing his black turtleneck again. I guess he changed on the way down or something. I don't know.
Well, he changes a couple times right in front of us, so he's good at it.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of a fun movie, and it caught me at a couple places. There was a segment where there's a twist in there, and I missed the clues. I missed them.
That's because there might not have been any.
Yeah.
Well, the twist. Well, anyway. Yeah, I enjoyed this. It's not particularly gory. There's no real special effects for the werewolf. It's like it's more like a weird dog that they put a shaggy mane on, and
it actually is a weird dog. Yep.
The dog must die.
Painted black, but that's okay. But it was a fun little, haunted or not haunted, but old dark house almost.
In a way, because one of them is a killer, and you got to find out which one it is. It just happens to be a werewolf, and they did well. There's some shenanigans going on here that are fun, but let's find out. Bill Mulligan, sir, when did you first see this, and what was your first impression of The Beast Must Die?
I think I'm pretty sure I caught this on VHS. Never had the chance to see it at the theaters. It would have been on a double bill with some films, but I just didn't get the chance to see it. And my impression was, I'm a huge Peter Cushing fan and all. His role is fairly small in it, but he quits himself well. He's got a dopey accent, but he was not the master of dialect. But even when he's got a totally fake accent, he's so fun to watch. And I liked it, but seeing it again now, the TV movie qualities seem a little too obvious. Music, that jazzy score, that interminable car chase sequence that is just not interesting. Nothing happens. I know we're jaded now watching, Too Fast, Too Furious, where they defy the laws of physics, but this is just like watching two cars chase each other on a dirt road, and the music's da 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 da, but nothing's really happening. The premise is cool, and there is a logical reason why all these people could plausibly be a werewolf. That's why he invited them, although maybe I missed something, but if he's not sure which one of them is the werewolf, there is the possibility that none of them are werewolves, in which case he's got some splaining to do. But okay, fine. The poster looks great. I love that poster. It's a very Agatha Christie looking poster. It just feels like I'd like to read the story that it came from, because it feels like there's not enough story there to sustain the whole movie, and there's not enough good clues to lead us astray. I mean, really, the problem I have with this, and this is true for a lot of these Agatha Christie type mysteries, not Agatha Christie herself, because hers always made sense, but a lot of these, every single person could plausibly be the bad guy. So there's really no great victory in figuring it out, because they literally could have just reached into a hat, pulled out a name, and said, okay, this is the one we're going to go with. This is the one who did it. There's no reason why that person is really more of a suspect than anyone else. They just happen to be the one they picked. So I didn't really feel like, with a real mystery, I feel like either I'm smart for guessing who it was, or I'm dopey for not figuring out all the clues. But this one, even knowing who who the werewolf is. Watching it now, I don't think they gave enough clues to really give a plausible reason for it.
I was watching it. I'm not sure there are. Yeah. So the trick is like the only clues I saw were related to somebody that was totally not the werewolf. Well, yeah, to a couple
Right.
people, right? We'll get to some of those here in a bit. I did find one clue that arguably could be presented at, but we'll get into all that nonsense later because we have to find out what Chad Hunt found out, also known as Eddie Quist. Chad, what was your first impression of this film, and when did you first see it?
I saw bits and pieces of this on TV growing up, but I've never seen the complete movie until yesterday, and then finished it today for the show. I was always a big fan of the movie 10 Little Indians, based on the Agatha Christie novel.
Yes.
And so I love movies like this where you kind of have to figure out who the killer is. So sitting down and watching it for the first time the whole way through, and it's a fun movie. And yeah, there are that car chase scene. That car chase scene is thank you, Amazon Prime, for having that 10-second fast forward button.
No, you didn't watch it all. Come on.
Well, the car chase scene I didn't anyway. I was like, when is this gonna? Yeah. I'm keep hitting them. That was the only thing good about that is when the cars go, he's inch away because the budget's too low to pay for
a crash.
And he's going to use the car again later.
That's right.
Yeah, but I love the main character, and he was cool. He sort of reminded me of a Craven the Hunter. Spider-Man. And so I kind of like that aspect of it, and some guy that's getting these people together to hunt down a werewolf. And as I recall, I think there's one of the Howling sequels has a storyline similar to this, if I'm not mistaken. Not done nearly as well.
I think you're right.
I got no idea.
But yeah, it's good. And usually I would want to pick apart how bad the werewolf looks. This movie would have been so good if they'd had the budget to have a good, memorable werewolf. Even a transformation scene.
Well, if they had a werewolf that wasn't just a German Shepherd, you would be really hard for them to get away with the twist.
Yeah, but if you're watching a werewolf movie, I'm not a big fan of quadruped werewolves.
Well, werewolf films in '74 always had their clothes on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the clothes make the man.
But I'm a big fan of Jeff's brother Larry. In the first place, where he had the gas station attendant outfit on, and but yeah, I had fun watching it. It was bad. It was bad in some places. It really was, but I had fun, and it's fun trying to find clues that aren't there. I found that out.
Yeah.
And that kept my interest, in between werewolf attacks, is trying to find out where the clues were and not finding any. That's always a good thing. But I liked it. I thought the characters were good. It had a good, pretty good cast and everything. And the twist, I did like the twist because it just came out of nowhere. It just, hey, it's this guy. To me, anyway.
I like the reveal though. The reveal was really
good. The reveal was good, and so I had fun. What else you want from a movie like this? It's not The Howling, and it's not The Wolfman. It's not any of those movies, but it's a fun little flick, hour-and-a-half flick.
Yeah, it is. Well, it is fun. It does test your patience. There's a couple scenes that are a little bit longer than you want them to be. The beginning, I might argue. I was like, one, I have no idea what's going on, and two, it's not that interesting.
No.
And
again, I was going like this.
Yeah, there's no context. and it's like, what's going on? I mean, it's meant to be, but it doesn't come across. And but by the time the car chase was happening, I was just like, I love the performance from some of the act. I mean, when we get to talking about the actors, you're going to be surprised who's actually in this.
Yeah,
there are some really surprising. The people in here are surprising who they are now today.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, that's who that is. There was one particular person. Of course, Peter Cushing is fantastic. Calvin Lockhart as our lead is. He is really. He definitely is playing a character, and he's committed to playing that character. It's a little bizarre at times. It's very eccentric. But it fits because if somebody that wasn't as eccentric as him would not have ever done something like this, right?
Great voice too.
Yeah. And I was surprised to see, all the films he was in, and we'll get to those in a little bit here too. Because this, as far as I knew, this was like the only film I ever knew he was in. So there's some stuff to like about this. The werewolf probably isn't it. And it reminds me of like those later in the 70s, we get like a handful of demon dog and devil dog films and vampire dogs, and they all felt this. I remember one of them had like a big thing around it. One of the devil dogs.
Devil Dog Hound from Hell was a TV movie, I think.
Oh my gosh! And this this is like the precursor to all that. And now there are some interesting things about it is that it's the first time a dog and a werewolf fight on screen. And it's actually pretty well done.
Well, people were clamoring for that at the time.
Yeah, it's two dogs. And it actually has an emotional impact, and there's some stuff going into it. So I enjoyed this, but it's probably one of my least favorite Amicus films without hesitation. It also happens to be the last one that Milton Sobowski, right? Is that the right name? Is enjoying? Yeah, the last one he's involved with. Of course, it wouldn't be much longer. They were kaput anyway, at least as far as we know them. But another thing is that, it's also a big deal that, the lead is who it is. At one point, a couple years earlier, Don Sharp was going to direct this, and Robert Shaw was going to be him. And of course, he was experiencing at that time a lull, which of course by 1975 that would be he wouldn't have a lull for the rest of his career, which was unfortunately a short time after that. But can you imagine Robert Shaw and Peter Cushing in the same movie?
Talking about hunting porkers.
I know, you hunt werewolves.
But that brings up one of the things that I kind of liked about it is that the lead character, and this is unusual for movies, definitely at that time. The lead character is a black actor, and just like in Night of the Living Dead, not a whole lot is made of it because it wasn't necessarily written to be that way.
Yeah,
that wasn't the main thrust of his character, which is unfortunately what often happens when they cast a minority in a role. Is that's absolutely important to the plot that we recognize that he's black or Chinese, and here he's just a rich guy, happens to be black, doesn't really matter. On with the story.
Now there was another person actually cast in this role, and it was Robert Quarry.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that didn't pan out. And it was really from what I'm reading, it's the last minute that he bailed out and they got Calvin. And it's just that's kind of hard to believe, right? I don't know. To me,
I don't see Quarry in that role.
No, I don't.
Quarry
I don't
could be
either.
one of the other characters, sure.
He there's a number of characters he could have been. Not every single one. I don't think he could have been the one with the hat and all the facial hair. I don't think he could have pulled that one off, but he could have done some of the other ones quite easily. I think having Calvin Lockhart in the lead makes this film watchable. Of course, Peter Cushing helps too. It's just that he's so eccentric, right? He's so out there. And is it Marlene Clark that plays his wife?
Yes.
She's really good too. Now, unfortunately, I think she was dubbed. She was
Yeah.
dubbed by Annie Ross, whoever that is. And I did not realize that. I don't know if I could tell. Could anybody else tell that she was
until I read
I
that.
read it, but I didn't notice it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice it either. But of course, that does take away from your impression of her performance, because how much of what I liked was the delivery of the lines. But and she did a lot of other acting, so I don't know why they felt the need to dub her, unless there was an accent or something that.
I don't know, but the character I was talking about was Paul Foote, was the one with the hat and hair, and he's probably the largest suspect among the group. But going in that he's such a suspect that there's no way he's the one that's he's a little too obvious, right?
He was pre-Harry.
He was.
Harry when he went in.
Yeah, he was, and I like that quite a bit. Oh, there's the werewolf is here. Werewolf's at the door. Bill, you've got a gaggle of werewolves running out your door, don't you?
Could you excuse me for a moment?
I can.
Yeah.
we'll bring him back on when he gets back. That's hilarious. Let's talk about Calvin Lockhart real quick. Bill usually likes to do this particular thing, but okay. One of the roles that he was in that surprised me the most was Predator 2. Do you guys remember in Predator 2, King Willie?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
He was King Willie.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. But he made a lot of the films like he did Let's Do It Again, Uptown Saturday Night.
Yeah.
These are the Bill Cosby.
Yeah, Salt and Pepper was.
Yeah.
We talked about that one before.
Those Bill Cosby films, and they usually had Sidney Poitier was in these, Harry Belafonte, Richard Pryor is in some of these, and then oh my God, and then there he is. I know I've seen these films because I used to watch them in the 70s and 80s when they come on. Yeah. I kind of want to go back and watch them all again. They're all out there. But I never realized it. Never made that connection.
Coming to America.
Colonel. He was the colonel.
Yeah. Okay.
The one that kept giving everybody a hard time, right?
Yeah.
But I thought he was fantastic here, if not slightly cartoonish.
Yeah, a little over the top, a little bit, but it kind of fit who that character was. He seemed like a little bit of an over-the-top character anyway, with all the cameras in the woods and the microphones and the big bat cave with the monitors while, the guy was in there monitoring everything for him. And so he seemed a little bit like a cartoon character.
Those two sequences that everybody brought up, the car chase, which is how many shortcuts did he have to take before he actually got somewhere with it? I mean, they weren't. He didn't gain on him at all until the last one. And then the one you're talking about where he's running, where they're trying to make you feel like it's a most dangerous game scenario,
right?
But nobody actually shoots them when they got them in their sights. So it's.
They make an excuse for the first one. They say you'll get another chance, and the guy backs away, and then
right.
He's like, "Oh, okay, okay." Well, let's talk about Marlene Clark because Marlene Clark got recommended after Calvin Lockhart got hired, and she, they worked together on a couple films. But she was in Beware the Blob, and Chad, you've been looking for us to do Ganja and Hess, and she played, I guess, Hess.
Ganja.
I don't know which one's which, but
you're absolutely right.
She played Ganja.
Right.
Yeah.
She and she was great in that. That's what was bothering me so much. I didn't have the chance to look up the IMDb. Yes. So so she's actually a very good actress.
She was
maybe not for Beware the Blob.
No.
Which wow. Really? Yeah, really. Yeah, really.
It's good enough for Larry Hagman.
Larry Hagman, yes. Who directed it. She was in Enter the Dragon. So
I remember her from Sanford and Son. She played Lamont's girlfriend on Sanford.
That's right.
Oh.
I used to love that show. I still
man.
I did too.
I've recently gone through because we have all these new channels and everything and access, and like Sanford and Son and All in the Family, Carol Burnett's show, Chico and the Man.
Yeah.
All these shows are suddenly available, and I'm like watching a couple episodes here and there going, wow, things have changed so much.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to save Peter Cushing for last, but let's talk about Charles Gray. Does anybody else have like a singular? Now, there's two particular roles that you might think of when you think of Charles Gray. Mine does not involve James Bond. Mine involves the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
And
just a step to the right.
Yes, and a particular sentence that I'm not going to repeat here that the audience gets to say. If you like Rocky Horror Picture Show, you know what I'm talking about involves a neck. But Blofeld, I would imagine Jeff and Bill that you guys are pretty heavy on knowing that who he is, right?
He's not my favorite Blofeld, but
that's true.
More recently,
there's another Blofeld in there.
Yes, there is. But we just did The Devil Rides Out.
I was just going to say that's the one I remember him from.
Oh, nice!
Great movie.
Yes. I mean, kind of like in a broader audience, maybe.
Yeah.
Our group, but yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he's in so much stuff. The Legacy is another one. You can just keep going and going. You can watch me read here. Theater of Blood, he was uncredited as a voice. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
He has a great presence. That disdainful upper crust thinks he's better than you, British guy.
He had some great lines. He had that one line about the guy says, "Well, they say something or another," and he says, "Who are they, and why would they say that?" Or something really smarmy.
He looks like that professor you had who clearly does not want to be teaching this class. Would rather be, I don't know, doing anything else.
It has disdain for his students.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, let's talk about Anton Diffring. Now he plays the IT guy. I guess he's an IT guy, right? Yeah. Today's standards, he would be an IT guy. He basically sets up all the equipment that they monitor the house with, and the werewolf is actually pretty smart and realizes this guy is the biggest threat in the house, even more of a threat than Calvin Lockhart himself, and takes him out first. The spoilers. But so for me, like, I always remember the poster for the man who could cheat death, right? It's because he's on the poster. He's the guy, right? Does anybody have another film of his that they remember him from? Because he's in he plays like Germans a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's a Hammer film, so that's good.
And more specifically, Nazi Germans. So
Yes. Yeah.
Where Eagles Dare might be the one reason that do that. He was in Fahrenheit 451, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Winds of War. Von Ribbentrop.
And in one that I'm pretty sure none of you have seen, he played a Nazi in The Day the Clown Cried.
Yeah, there's a reason why none of us have seen that.
No, wait a minute. I think I've seen that.
But
who's in that?
That's the Jerry Lewis movie that he
in
the safe. How have you seen that?
I don't know.
What? Wait a minute. What do you have? London After Midnight?
It's right next to it on the shelf.
Oh,
it seems like I've seen it. Maybe I saw a documentary about it.
Yeah, they have. And there's actually some rumor they are going to release this horror show, and we'll finally get to see if it's as bad as everyone thinks it is. Spoiler alert! It almost certainly is.
Oh, it has to be, right?
But yeah, he was in Zeppelin, one of my favorite Zeppelin movies.
There's a werewolf outside. Run away! All right, let's talk about the other female cast member. Talk about the other female character actress in here, Ciaran Madden. I'm going to go with Ciaran. It's Ciaran. Sounds like an Irish or Scottish way of doing it. I am unfamiliar with her. She's particularly good in this. I like her. She does what she needs to do in this. Does anybody have any particular observations or other films? I mean,
Not very many movies, but she did a lot of TV. It looks
a lot of TV and
Yeah.
a lot of British TV. Like Return of the Saint might be the only one that we would ever have gotten over here right off the bat. So there's I don't know if
I don't
there's
think I've seen her in anything else.
Yeah,
but I
so-
liked her in this.
yeah. So unfortunately, us Yanks don't have much
Yeah.
to say. I'm sure we have some fans that are going to give us some hell about that.
Yeah.
And we deserve it. One of my favorite characters is Mr. Foot, right?
Mhm.
Which is also a funny name. It has an E at the end, but Paul Foot. I love his look. He looks nothing like that guy now.
No, he looks more like Blofeld now than.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm just trying to remember because he seems like. Is that just a look that people had in the 70s? Because it looks like I would have seen him like in everything, but I'm not sure I saw him in anything other than this. But he just had that great look, right?
Yeah.
In this film.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a man who works a lot.
He does. It does. I really liked his character, and you guys tell me if you liked it as well, because he's a bit smart ass.
Mhm.
He confronts, he shoots the arrow at our guy, right? Could have taken him out. You'd have saved so many lives. Or maybe it cost everybody their lives. I don't know.
Well, he's the guy they stuck in there as the red herring, the guy that.
Yeah.
Clearly the werewolf.
Mr.
Obviously
Obvious.
the werewolf.
Yeah.
And hairy hands. Right?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I mean that one shot when they zoom in at the door and he's like all concerned about his hands. He's got his hands up and he's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's perfect. It's great. It's also like, okay, this is way too obvious.
Yeah.
You know, if you make it this, it's going to be too much of a letdown. So
Might
it's
as well have a
not
big
you.
W on
So
his forehead.
it's not you. And of course, well, we're not spoiling anything by doing that. All right, the next guy plays Jan or Jan, Michael Gambon or Gambon. I've always thought it was Gambon, but it
may well be.
Is it
might
spelled?
be.
Is it spelled like Gambon though? I feel so
It
terrible.
is.
I did not recognize him in the role
No.
that he's probably most well known for in the modern century,
Dumbledore.
which is Dumbledore. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I picked on somebody else. Where did I lost him? Michael Gambon.
Yeah,
Wrong
which
tab. I shouldn't do the wrong tab because it gets really confused. Dumbledore. What did you guys think of this character? Because he's not given a whole lot to do.
Yeah.
Except have
Drive
that.
fast.
Except for have that, he's the love interest of Ciaran's character, right? So, then that was interesting. He's like, and gives us a little bit of an insight on how paranoid our lead is. Follow them. He's such an ass.
And I figured I had him spotted as probably the werewolf, just because having him and the woman together was interesting, that one of them would be protecting the other. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot for him to do. They could have done more with the piano playing thing. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like there could have been some more characterization. I guess they must have been thinking, this thing is talky enough as it is. And if we give every character the right motivations and things to make them suspicious, then people are going to start snoozing. But that's where, you got to get some good writing in there.
Mhm.
I would have rather seen that than, shave 5 minutes off the chase scene. It still would have been too long.
Yeah. After 5 minutes off of
This is kind of important because this doesn't happen very often. Doc, you were right. It's Gambon.
okay.
Oh,
Gambon.
well done.
I thank you because I had it both ways and I didn't know which way to go. I'm always confused.
Words are hard.
Yeah, words are words are hard.
So once again, we see that if you just collect a bunch of British actors, just random British actors, some that we've seen before, some that you haven't, some that are just on TV shows that didn't get out here, there's a pretty good chance your movie is not going to suck in the acting department. And I don't know if you could say the same here. I'm just going to randomly pick some American actors and throw them together and like, ooh, there's a couple of weak links here.
Yeah. You might be right. You might be right there. I love the cast. I love the cast. I think the cast, is the reason to watch this film. It certainly isn't for the werewolf, unfortunately. Although, well, it doesn't help that the dog always has his tongue out because he never looks intimidating, right? He's always like.
I don't even think he's not even a wolf dog. It's
a German Shepherd, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of
I
give
don't
him a
know
little.
why, except for if you ever see one, wolf dogs can be beautiful, lovely, sweet animals. But they can also be freaking terrifying. I've seen wolf dogs that were bigger than any dog or any wolf I've ever seen. Somehow the hybridization turns them into giants. I saw one with a head as big as most dogs all by itself. They really look like they could be scary. But maybe that's the reason why you don't use them. Maybe they
isn't that the breed they used for Game of Thrones? Or did they actually use
wolf dogs? I don't know.
I
just assumed it was CGI, but
that's what
it really was.
Yeah. Oh no, they actually had dogs. There were actually. I mean, some of it was CGI, but they had.
Actually, I think one of the best. Yeah, and
especially when they were puppies. Sorry,
I'd rather see a wolf man than a wolf. But then I think of Wolfen, and those wolves were great. But I think a lot of that was they were just really photographed well, and you had some super talent behind the camera there to make them look as just real awe-inspiring as they were. Otherwise, they tend to kind of look like German Shepherds.
It's hard to do the on fours werewolf. American Werewolf in London, maybe the one that I can.
But it had a little character to it, though. I mean, it didn't look like a dog. I mean, they actually made it look like a hellhound.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
What's that? Here?
Well, the transformation sold him.
That sold that, but I mean, even the wolf after the transformation looked monstrous, and it didn't look like a wolf.
Yeah,
like a wolf,
an extra wig on it,
or something. Yeah.
Demon wolf.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that movie is a classic, but so you're going to enjoy this for the the zaniness of the plot, the characters. There isn't too much blood, although it looks like they had it and they cut it out. Like when one character is turned around, you get this quick shot of like his eyes missing, but it's gone. It's gone before you even realize you're looking at it. And there's a throat cut at one point. So, or not cut, but tore out. So it's kind of interesting that, it looks like it was probably a little gorier than we got. It was definitely TV fare.
Yeah.
Amicus usually didn't shy away from gore in some of the portmanteaus we've watched.
That's true.
Had some pretty gruesome stuff in there. So I don't know. I agree with you, Doc. I think it was in there at one point. Maybe they kind of just weeded out some of that.
Yeah, this film isn't. I mean, it's part of like the Amicus collection. I don't. What do you think, Bill, as far as its legacy in 70s horror? Because it's there, but is it revered or
no? This is about the time when Hammer was starting to go through its death throes, and I guess so was Amicus. Amicus was always kind of like Hammer's little brother. And if Hammer's starting to go downhill, Amicus isn't far behind. But they kind of went in a different direction. I mean, in one sense, this kind of reminds me of the last Hammers, where they're throwing things against the wall and see what sticks. And here they're like, okay, horror may not be selling the way it used to. How about if we combine horror and mystery? That's not done too often. And we'll do Most Dangerous Game, because there's a concept that hasn't been done to death. They tried something, but it is a little surprising to me that having done that, they didn't do, because by this time when Hammer was doing like Vampire Circus, they're throwing blood everywhere. They're going,
yes, they are
really pushing the envelope. And this one is like sealing the envelope. It's putting it in a bigger envelope. I do kind of wonder what the idea was. And considering what you were talking about with the Werewolf Break, maybe there was a lot of dissension behind the scenes too, where the producers, the directors, the people in charge of the money, maybe there was just so many things pulling this film in different directions, never really had a chance to find a cohesive identity. I'd be interested to know from people who worked on it what was going on.
Now we've talked about Peter Cushing a lot, here on the podcast. We will cover a lot of his films. There's still many more for us to cover, and we will. So we won't go through his bibliography or biography right now. Filmography. He has a bibliography too. But let's talk about his performance, because we mentioned his accent, which is a bit flaky, but kind of works. But he does some particular motions and actions in here that I want to point out. Because he is brought in as the werewolf expert, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exposition.
Right. He does have the biggest exposition, right? Outside of maybe setting everything up with our lead before everybody arrives. But he there's a part where, Silver, they bring in the flower, right? The wolfsbane, and they make all this thing like, well, the wolfsbane triggers it, makes it uncontrollable, and then you have Silver that should kill him or send him into a frenzy, right? And so they have, at one point they have a candlestick, and there's some interesting things there. But another time they have a silver bullet, and he gives everybody a silver bullet that they pop in their mouth, because they talked about they could there's ways to get around touching the thing and he. So when he does it, he does something in particular that made me suspicious, because he takes it out and he wipes it clean. And the way he does it is like a magic trick, right? Because he puts it in one way, cleans it, and pulls it out the other. And I was like, what did you just do there, Mr. Cushing? I think you don't have a silver bullet, sir. And he does that just about every single time that we have like one of these tests. He does something a little off. It seems like he's the only one that kind of was in the know that this was going to be a mystery.
Yeah.
But Jeff, what did you think of his performance? What does he stand out?
I guess
as a weak one?
So I guess the accent bothered me a little more than it bothered you guys. I had no idea what it was supposed to be from, other than if I went by his name, I would think somebody from East Europe somewhere. But at times it sounded a little bit like a bad Inspector Clouseau type.
Well, he did sound French, because he called it a loup-garou.
So anyway,
okay, I guess
but his performance was cool. I thought there was one particular place where he's busy doing something. Like, I don't remember if he's looking at a book or taking notes, and somebody asked him if he's seen any of those signs yet of the werewolf. Has he been able to tell? And he doesn't say anything, and he stops, he looks at him and goes, "No," and then looks back down. It was just such a flat answer in response.
Yeah,
Cushing was really
he actually
well
puts his glasses down too.
Yeah, he does. And so I think he does fine with what he's given. The accent put me off just a little, but I got used to it. But he's Peter Cushing. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and the stuff he's saying is such 100% unadulterated horseshit. But he says it with absolute authority. And the funny part is, they're like, so have you ever seen a werewolf? Well, no. Well, no. But then you're saying, but this happens, and Wolfbane does this, and Silver does that. It's like, how would you even know? This is like when some expert comes on TV and tells you about Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly he has never seen or captured a Bigfoot, because we would have heard about it by now. But he's talking about how this creature that we don't even know exists lives. He's the Bigfoot expert. There's no such thing as a Bigfoot expert, because we're not even 100% sure that there is a Bigfoot. So, how can you be an expert on something that might not exist? But he may be wrong, but he is 100% not in doubt. And seriously, Peter Cushing just has that presence where it's like, I don't know if what he's saying is true, but if he were alive today, they'd be trotting him out to talk about COVID, which, by the way, was the only thing I could think about when they're taking this bullet and putting it in the nasty mouth, taking it out, giving it to the next person. And
they did not share the same bullet. Because he took a bullet out and gave it to each one, because it left him with only one bullet.
Oh, well, thank God.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
He had a clip. He was
and he was like, "I've got enough, and I'll have enough to take care of the werewolf."
And although I know this is impossible, I would never actually put a bullet in my mouth, because I just figure I'd be that 1 in a million person who somehow manages to shoot himself in the head by putting a bullet
with just a bullet and teeth.
Yeah, it hits my tooth, it hits the filling. I don't know. I don't know the chemistry behind this, but
yeah.
Well, talking to the thing that another one of those scenes that bothered me was the one where they passed the candelabra around.
Yeah,
and I don't know, was he just doing that to see if somebody would would break and run for it or something.
I don't know.
Afterwards, he goes, "Yeah, well, obviously he knows enough to know that wouldn't work if we didn't have the pollen of wolfbane."
Well, I like when he brings in the wolfbane and he goes, he blows it right in Peter Cushing's face, and he's like, I mean, literally, he's. It's like, oh man, what do you? Okay, oh my God, Eddie Quist, sir. What, Chad? What is your thought of Peter Cushing here? I mean, we've been seeing a lot of Peter Cushing, roles in the past year or so as we were doing this. What do you think? What did you think of this one?
Not his best role, but he still brought a sense of class to this production. You know what I mean? I mean, he I don't know, he made it legit to me, even though there are a lot of other cast members that are in a lot of other different things. Just seeing him there sort of gives you that old blanket feeling that you've had for 20 years that just comes so comfortable and it's all worn through, but it just feels good. So that's the feeling I get with Peter Cushing. He feels good.
He feels good. Yeah, he's a nice warm spot. Like you feel comfortable. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That's our review, if you will, of The Beast Must Die. We're going to go around and give our final thoughts here, but before we do, I want to make sure. Before we do, Chad also has something prepared. We'll get to that for just a second. But before all that, if you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button below. Hit the bell to get reminded, and hit the like button if you like it, or dislike if you don't. If you're upset that I said Gambon instead of Gambon, let me have it. I'm okay with that.
He needs to learn, everybody.
I do.
The only way he'll learn.
And I'm too old, so it's not going to matter anyway. Anyway, so please do that. Chad, you have something for us, sir?
Yeah, I just had a little something I wanted to read here. Is it Chad? We all know that he's a comic book artist, but is that comic book Werewolf by Night? Or could it be Bill? Only a special effects guru could hide his fiendish werewolf identity under a human mask. Or is it Doc Rotten? It's not Doc Rotten. The very man who gathered these people together. Was it for a podcast? Or did he have some fiendish plan in mind? And what of Jeff Moore? Lovable, friendly Jeff Moore. Could his melodious voice and calm demeanor hide a raging beast within?
All right. That's our Werewolf Break.
It's obviously Doc, because I literally saw him transform.
Yeah. I did too.
Yeah, he's in reverse werewolf mode, though. He had more hair when we started the podcast.
Well, I mean, he turned from Jeff to Doc, and there's a little bit more hair involved. So I don't know.
That's more hair,
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know where to take that. That is crazy. All right, let's just wrap it up. Give a thought. If there's something in particular about the film you want to mention, please do. Jeff, you're up first.
Well, I just wanted to mention the composer is a guy named Douglas Gamley, or maybe Gamley. And I thought I'm going to look him up because I wonder if he didn't do a bunch of 70s detective shows in the U.S. No, he didn't. But you know what he did do? He must have been like the Amicus House composer, because he did Tales from the Crypt, Asylum, The Vault of Horror, and Now the Screaming Starts, From Beyond the Grave, Madhouse, The Beast Must Die, and The Land That Time Forgot. But he also was nominated for an Oscar for The Little Prince during that same time period.
Oh wow,
very good.
So very strange. He also was a composer for the orchestra for Tron. So he got out of his pigeonhole for some stuff.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
But I just thought that was interesting. I was expecting to see a whole bunch of like Manic, Starsky and Hutch, that kind of stuff, and it just nope. So yeah, no, this is okay to watch. This is a fun watch. Don't expect to be scared or anything, but besides the most dangerous game sequence and the car chase that goes nowhere, it's it's not too bad.
The car chase that goes nowhere. All right, Bill Mulligan, sir, give us your final thoughts.
It's a piece of fluff, but it goes by pretty fast. It's got Peter Cushing. It's got a werewolf kind of. It's got a nifty little story. I mean, I really would actually like to see someone take another crack at it, and I think this would deserve a kind of like a mini series, like a Netflix thing or whatever, and where we could really explore the characters and get into things. And obviously, you'd have to add a whole lot more story. Maybe someone's a vampire. Yeah, understandable mistake.
Ooh, now you're talking.
Yeah, I think the doc guy should have ended up being a ghoul because he kind of was. They could do something with that, but as is, this is a fun little movie that is, it's not what it could have been, but it's better than it might have been. So not a bad way to pass the time.
Yeah, I mean, because each one has a backstory that we get, like it's all exposition. But if you actually dove into it, some of them are kind of, like the one guy that, they're scientists and they decide to eat the flesh. There could be a little bit more to that, right?
I think there was.
I think there was. All right, Chad Hunt, sir. What about you? Final thoughts?
Just mirroring what everybody else said. It's a fun movie. You got Peter Cushing in there. It's just a fun little movie, and if you've never seen it before, it's fun to try to figure out who the werewolf might be. It's fun, given those two scenes with the hunt at the beginning and their pseudo hunt, and then the car chase scene. It's just a fun time. If you got an hour and a half to kill and you like werewolf movies, it's fun. So yeah,
fun. Mm-hmm. Fun. That's the key word. Fun. All right. I can't disagree with you guys. The Amicus films, like Hammer films, have kind of a special place in my love for horror, especially of the 70s or early horror memories. This is one that I can't recall when I first saw it, but I have seen it, but only once. Mm-hmm. It just never made a big impression because the werewolf itself is so weak. Although I didn't hate it because I actually like what the director and the writer hate so much. I love the Werewolf Break. I thought the Werewolf Break is so fun, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't amount to anything because it's an afterthought and it's kind of painful, painfully obvious, right? But at the same time, the whole concept of this mystery to solve is intriguing, and it's like a really interesting start. The film is kind of pedestrian in a lot of ways. We kind of call it like TV, and it does feel that way, but it has its moments. It has some, British humor, or intentional or unintentional, in it. And it has a great cast that, includes, but is not limited to, the great Peter Cushing. So I think I would put this more in a curiosity bucket. If you're curious about it, there's no reason not to go ahead and watch it. If you're a Peter Cushing fan, there's no reason not to watch it. If you're exploring, black exploitation films of the era, this gets lumped in there, but I don't think it deserves to be. Not that that's wrong, but I don't think it actually qualifies. Yeah. It has a black lead, and that's fantastic. And I love the fact that, like Night of the Living Dead, it doesn't make any bones about it. Yeah. It's a fact, not a point. And I really enjoy that. So there's elements of this that are, worth revisiting. But the film itself, I could give you probably 10 or a dozen Amicus films to watch ahead of it. Yeah. That may or may not include, those weird dinosaur movies.
I wonder if it's just that Amicus, they were so good with the portmanteaus, the short stories. Sometimes when I watch their feature-length films, I feel like this is a short story that got expanded and might have been better if it had stayed a short story. I think you could have made a ripping 25-minute longest segment of an anthology out of this story. Yeah. Imagine 25 lean minutes of just the premise of, I've called you all here today because one of you is a werewolf. Yeah,
and it actually would have made a good bookend story of it, right? The reason why everybody's there and everybody has their own back end.
Yeah.
You're a genius.
Could have had the eating the flesh part as a part.
Yeah.
That's exactly why you do that.
Because it could be.
Oh, Doc, that's the screenplay right there.
Right there.
Perfect.
Right
Each
there.
one has to tell their story why that he suspects that they might be the werewolf.
Yep.
If anyone's listening to this, send us money and we will write the screenplay for you.
Let's do it. Speaking of that, those who are listening, we love hearing from you. We want to hear your comments. Put them down below here on YouTube, or send them to us over to Gruesome Magazine if you're listening to us on the podcast. Either way, we love hearing from you, and we do have some feedback. And Jeff Moore is here to share that with us. Jeff, take it away.
I do, but first I have to apologize for claiming to have seen a movie that doesn't exist. I'm mortified.
No, well, you saw that.
The day the clown cried.
Right. You saw the.
I swear. I don't know what I saw. I swear I saw it. Maybe it's just I've seen pictures of so many pictures of it that I just pictured Jerry Lewis like that. Anyway, feedback. This is from our good buddy Alistair Hughes.
Yes.
Yeah.
From New Zealand. About episode 116 from Beyond the Grave. Christmas is here again already? Gentlemen, this was a sheer delight from Bill's credible introductory impersonation of Doc's manic goodnight shriek at the very end. I think that was one where you dropped out for a while, Doc, and we didn't know you were back, and we said goodnight to everybody, and you jumped in and hollered. Anyway. And Alistair goes on, and don't worry, Bill, your attempt at a Scottish accent brings neither you nor Cushing any shame, because it was actually Northern English, possibly Yorkshire, and well executed by you both.
Oh, nice.
Oh, there you go.
I love this film. Like at least one of you, Cushing is my favorite actor, with the incredibly prolific David Warner also appearing high on my list. Warner began as a Shakespearean stage actor. No kidding, right? And his Hamlet is still highly regarded even now. I love how he transferred his considerable skills to the genre. He's enlivened everything from Lois and Clark to Star Trek to Planet of the Apes, and best of all, even gloriously sucker punched Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic.
Gloriously, yes.
Not to mention losing his head in The Omen. From Beyond the Grave is one of the very best Amicus anthologies, showing how they had gradually perfected this storytelling form through the years. And as you all say, there are no disappointments in these four tales, with Cushing clearly having the time of his life in between them. But even better is that the four of you also seem to be having the time of your lives talking about this film, and that always makes for great listening. I can't help but wonder, though, could the mysterious proprietor of Temptations Limited possibly be another personification of Cushing's Dr. Shrek from Amicus's Dr. Terror's House of Horrors? Not only do they clearly have the same modus operandi, but identical eyebrows.
Yes.
When will greedy, duplicitous mortals ever learn? Don't push the cush.
Nice.
Thank you, dear Grue-Crew, for knocking it out of the cemetery yet again. Alistair Hughes.
Don't push the cush.
That could be a t-shirt. That's
oh
pretty
my God. Yeah.
Thanks, Alistair.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I appreciate it, Alistair. Appreciate your comments too. It's always interesting and fun.
Yeah, he always brings some insight to the British films we do, especially because we just have the Yank insight, and it's not as good.
Yep.
Also gives us a chance to butcher names.
We mangle the names as if English is not our language.
I know.
It's one thing if we're doing the oily maniac. It's like, okay, this is a Mandarin Chinese. I'm just going to take a shot here. Forgive me.
You think after 7.5 years I'd be a little better at this, but no, not me. Oh man. Well, thank you, Alistair, and also thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chad. I keep wanting to call you Eddie for some reason, and Mr. Mr. Mulligan, as always, all around nice guy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, with that, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.